and impact on our community. We're so glad to have you here for what promises to be an insightful and thought-provoking discussion. As we all know, government changes, whether local, regional, or national, can have a significant impact on the way our community functions, how policies are implemented, and how our everyday lives are shaped. In this event, we'll explore how recent shifts in government structures and policies might affect us, our neighborhoods and the services we rely on. We're looking forward to hearing from experts and community leaders who will share their perspectives, address concerns, and highlight opportunities for positive change. Most importantly, this is a chance for all of us to engage, ask questions, and be part of the conversation that helps shape the future of our community. So with that being said, let's get started. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Sharina Haynes, and I serve as the Connection and Social Action Chairman for the Sigma Upsilon Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. As the Connection and Social Action Chairman, our goal this year is to collaborate with multiple organizations. We are excited to have you here for our government changes and its impact on our communities. We are actively working to promote civic engagement, voter education, and community empowerment. This town hall is a series with the intentional effort to unify our voices, share resources, and collectively examine the far-reaching implications of government shifts and how they impact our daily lives. By creating space for collaboration, education, and open dialogue, we aim to strengthen our collective impact, ensure our communities are informed and equipped, and mobilize residents to take meaningful action in the face of change. We thank you all for being here this afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shakita McDermott, and I am the chair of the Social Action for the Somerville Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and I have the pleasure of introducing our moderator, Mrs. Audrey K. Starks Lane. Mrs. Audrey K. Starks Lane is a native of Columbia, South Carolina, and is a founding partner and executive director of E3 Educate, Empower, and Elevate. E3's mission is to ensure that most impacted by inequities are educated, empowered, and elevated to exercise their collective agency in the South. Further, E3 envisions a community that embodies a healthy environment for racial and economic justice for Black and Brown people and embraces the brilliance of our people to solve their problems and co-create their future. Her father's commitment to educating all children, regardless of race or zip code, lives within her every day, and she was ultimately led back to South Carolina as the Charleston County School District's first broad resident for urban education. This program recruits mid-level and public-private sector leaders to utilize their knowledge and skills to improve America's public education system. Prior to relocating to Charleston in 2008, Audrey was a business development and commercial coordinator within the U.S. Pipeline and Logistics Organizations of BP North America, a product development leader with International Paper, and began her career as a mechanical engineer with Xerox in a technical leadership program for women of color. She makes the time to be involved in her local community and church, either through her work as a member of the Health Advisory Committee with Trident United Way, Charleston Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, where she currently serves as Assistant Parliamentarian, Social Action Chairperson, and South Carolina State Coordinator for Social Action, and is about to celebrate her 28th year in Delta. Audrey also serves on the Charleston State Stage Board of Directors, Roper St. Francis Community Hospital Board, the Social Justice Racial Equity Collaborative, and after all these years, still loves a good Sunday school class. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. We just came from church, some of us, so come on, y'all. Good afternoon. I know brunch was good. This is right after brunch. I know I like a good Sunday afternoon nap as well. So, but we're grateful that my fellow D9 brothers and sisters, as well as the NAACP of Somerville, and I'm missing one because I can't see the font. Low Country Women, of course, the women in purple. That's one of my favorite. That is one of my favorite colors. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here at such a time as this in our country's. I don't know what we want to call it. It's a time. It's a time. It's a time. And so we have some great individuals who are here with us today, who will share with us. And we all, there's a lot of people in this room that we all work together, so we see each other sometimes weekly. And so these individuals as well, we've seen them this session so far. We've seen some very heated discussions at the State House. And we want to first congratulate our newest representative as of last Tuesday, Courtney Waters, District 113. Oh, we can give it up for her. Tuesday? To all people? Okay. She will be sworn in on Tuesday at noon. You know, Courtney did great service with the Charleston County School District, on the school board, and now moving to the next level where God has placed her, and we're excited about that. So if you can tune in or go on Tuesday at noon, and then shortly after we start from the house on the floor, right? We got another of it about this legislature that is happening. So we're going to get started. So what I understand, my instructions are, we have about 15 minutes. We have some questions that the committee has come up with. And so each of the panelists will respond to that. And then we will are we taking live audience questions? I know there were some questions that were submitted ahead of time. So I know that they will get those to me and we'll get those asked as well. So let's get started. And I would ask that as you're answering this question, that you also provide who you are, what you're representing today, so that people in the audience will know that. And we'll get started with you, Brother Dion. So how do recent government changes at the state and federal levels impact residents of Dorchester County?
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. I am Dion Tedder. I am a brother of the greatest fraternity, Alpha Pi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. I represent Senate District 42, which covers Charleston and Dorchester counties. And so just jumping right in, what's the general impact for Dorchester County from the state and the national level? I'll start with the national level, just with this whole attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so what's happened and what is currently happening as it's trickling down to the states, jobs are being lost. That's dealing with any type of minority affairs or diversity We're starting to see that on the local level and the state level. Scholarships are being pulled, particularly that are for minority students. For example, those who are familiar with Dr. Thaddeus Bell has a scholarship for medical students that has been pulled from MUSC because it's geared towards minority students. Those are real impacts on people who, I mean, that school is already expensive. And so those going to professional schools, these are real impacts that are happening. Schools are having to remove and to speak to the schools, because we've had these conversations, they are under pressure of, if they don't remove, or they feel that if they don't remove these scholarships and these positions, they will lose funding. And that's a real thing. We have people in our state government now moving to the state. The House is in the fight now, but what they'll do is, even if the bill doesn't pass, they can put in provisos in the budget that says, if a public school or whatever university has anything related to minority engagement, they will lose funding. And that's a real thing. And so the universities are at a difficult point, because do we risk losing the funding for all of our kids, or do we just remove those that specifically impact minorities? And so those are real things that are happening. Benedict College, I talked to Dr. Artis, and when we had HBCU Day, she shared with us that there is a scholarship for students, seniors at Benedict College, to go directly to medical school at MUSC. And now she has seniors at risk of not receiving that scholarship now. They've done all they were supposed to do. They went through 4 years of college, they kept their GPA up, they stayed out of trouble, and now the government is stripping those scholarships that they would have to pay for medical school. And then, medical school is expensive. And so we're talking about removing potential careers from students, because now they have to shift if they can't afford to do that. So these are real things that are happening. And with that, I'll just limit it to that. As far as funding with jobs and scholarships, which is really is a real thing, because it's affecting our students at these schools.
Good afternoon. My name is Tiffany Span Wilder, and I represent House District 109, which was vacated by Senator Tedder. I have officially been in this role about a year now. In about 2 weeks, I was a part of a special election and then had to run for the full term. So I'm now serving my first full term after a good 1 month in the seat last year. I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, affiliated in the Charleston Alumni chapter. And so I'm glad to be here. House District 109 serves predominantly Charleston County, but a small part of Dorchester County along the Ashley Phosphate area behind the Publix and over to the Windsor Hill community. So in this climate, there was no on-ramp with this position. We got in and it's just been on and popping. And where we are right now, we are seeing the impact of the federal government decisions sit squarely here. As you all know, and I'm looking at the faces, so I know a lot of you, because as things get more expensive, we keep moving further out. So this feels like Charleston County I grew up in, and seeing you all, and a lot of you work in government or have family members who work in government, and because we still have a very strong component here with the Air Force Base, NIWIC, and the Old Naval Base. You have colleagues, maybe even some of you, who have lost their jobs because of the DOGE. And so that's happening. I know of a young student that finished at South Carolina State this past spring and had a guaranteed job. And as a parent of a college student, it is a thing to know that your child, the scholarship is going to lead to employment. And this young lady took a job, and now she doesn't have a job because she was a part of the probationary period. And so these things are real. They are happening to people that we know, or friends who are saying, look, I've got this many years in, and I might just go ahead and take the retirement package when I know I can get what's guaranteed and move on out of the way. Those things are just real. We have impact that is gonna impact our Air Force Base services. I know some of you are veterans, you use the services there. It's just gonna trickle down to everything. Social Security, the office here, I think Tobias Jackson, that office is closed. It's just, how are people gonna get the services that they have come to believe are tried and true things, like the Social Security Administration, your Medicare benefits? These are the things that when you went off to college, your parents told you, get a good job, and if you get a job in the government, you were set. And you would do that, and you knew that you had something to look forward to. And for that to be a question now is really scary. And we have people in the State House who are just true followers of the orange guy. And they want to do everything that they think is going to curry favor with him. And so we are starting to see this in our state government as well. And I will tell you, everybody there, while we do have a super majority, I won't say that everybody there is like that, just as a person, but there is a faction, and I'm just gonna call them out, it's the Freedom Caucus. And they are super MAGA, is what I'll call them. They're just super. Whatever, they have drank all the Kool-Aid. There's nothing left. There's nothing left. And they wanna do any and everything that they think is going to make them just be aligned with the White House. And so some of the things that we are coming up against are really initiatives that the other folks feel like they have got to do because they don't want to run afoul. They don't want to be primary. And so that's what we are starting to see at the State House. And yes, last Wednesday, we started the debate on the anti-DEI bill. And it is on the agenda for Tuesday, but I'm hearing they may try to move it to Wednesday again. But it's one of those things, I've said it on my campaign social media page. Do not light the match if you don't like the heat. And the one thing that this Black Caucus promises, whether we have the numbers or not, we are not going to turn down the heat. When they vote, if they pass it, if they pass it, okay, but we're not going down without a fight. We may not have the numbers, but there's nothing wrong with our mouth, and we are gonna bring it and bring it home.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Courtney Waters, as Audrey just shared. I am a proud member, you can't tell by my shirt, but I'm a proud member of Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I had the pleasure of taking my mother to 4 grocery stores this afternoon, and I just had to pull out what didn't need ironing to get there on time. And that happened to be this red sweater. So, thank you. One red sweater in the last 10 years. Nevertheless, I think that my colleagues here, who I'm so extremely grateful to serve with. I mean, Senator Tedder was a huge part of helping me get elected, and Rep. Span Wilder has been a huge part of helping me get my grounding, my footing, because a lot of people don't do this, but she called and she was like, I'm not gonna let them do you how they did me, and so she's been making my entryway a lot smoother. And so I don't want to restate what's already been said, but I would add that what's really jarring, deeply concerning for me in this moment, especially as it pertains to the district that I serve, which is 113, which the bottommost street is Clemens Avenue in Chicora Cherokee neighborhood. Northernmost is Lincolnville, and I have 2 Black settlement communities, Liberty Hill and Lincolnville, and several others that, we think about the most acute issues in our state. I have communities in my district, the lion's share, who experience them the most acutely. And so what is concerning for me is that every day we are finding out some new impact. Because when you take a sledgehammer to a system and you don't think about things thoughtfully, you have no idea what the ripple effect, the trickle down effect will be. And so, just little things like calling the student loan office and finding out that income-based repayment plans had been paused, because I was actually trying to help my sister with some things. And income-based repayment plans are not a thing right now, not even available to folks. Things like the energy issues in my area, there's something called an energy burden. If you are spending a higher ratio of your income on utilities than the average person is, if you're over a ratio of 6%, then you are in trouble. And most of my neighborhoods are well over 6%, and the 8%, think Liberty Park, Russell-Dale, Highland Terrace, Singing Pines, those communities in the 8s, right? And there are organizations that are supposed to be able to help them when they have $500 and $600 energy bills, and federal funding that's flowing into those organizations has been frozen. And so I'm trying to figure out in this month that I have in office, if I can get some earmark funds to go to some of these organizations that can help with weatherization, that can help insulate homes and replace utilities in their homes, because not utilities, but appliances in their homes, because what is a reality is that everything is going to be tighter. The financial squeeze on folks is going to be tighter. And so wherever folks like us can be figuring out how to save people $1 from the state side, we've got to do that, because again, we don't know how much more acute some of these changes are going to start to be felt. And ultimately, I would name that education is the most important issue to me. I was a classroom teacher. I run an education nonprofit. I was on the Charleston County School Board. And when I think about the shifts at the Department of Education, when I think about these DEI bills, I think about the fact that we are already 48 in terms of education, right? So nobody's beating down the doors to get to our colleges and universities, which means that they need to retain their rigor. And when you start to take things away from curriculums, the rigor decreases. And think about all of that out-of-state tuition that flows into our state. That might stop if people start to see our universities and colleges as less competitive than they even are today. When I think about our school systems, I mean, we were all at the Charleston County School Board on Monday. Last place I wanted to be. I spent 4 long years there, but we had to show up because, on the word of an executive order, our DEI position was removed from Charleston County School District, and her title was intercultural competence. Well, regardless of what the environment is saying, we still have many cultures in the school district, and we need to be thinking about how we care for them, how we support them. And when you get rid of the one person in an entire 50,000 student almost school district who was charged with putting systems of support in place for children who are at the bottom, in terms of proficiency, that is, and on the word of something that's not a law, right? Like that is deeply troubling to me, because we're not even waiting for these things to be coded in law. We're moving at the word of, as Representative Wilder said, the orange man up there. And so this moment is deeply concerning. And the last thing I would say is, in addition to the fact that we are 48, we have as a statute that we only have to provide a minimally adequate education for children, and there's no interest in changing that statute. And so when we think about funding that is by law supposed to flow to states to help students with disabilities, to help students who are in low-income communities, make sure that we have appropriate translation services for multilingual learners. When we think about those things, our state already does not hold a high standard to itself in terms of servicing those needs. And so without a Department of Education setting regulation and making sure that folks are doing what they're supposed to do, we are left with a state that already has shown that it has no interest in making sure we have excellent public education systems. And as a newer elected person, I just wonder what I'm going to find inside of these other agencies. And so with that, I'll turn it back over to Andre.
Well, clearly we've got some experts in the room today, so I hope you all are taking great notes. I would like to say reading is fundamental, and I did have the program ahead of time, but I do just want to recognize the folks that were supposed to introduce our guests today. So I'll ask you to stand. Felicity Rankins Road, who's the social action chairman for Sigma Gamma Rho. She's back there doing our technology for today. Felicity. Noah Thomas of Alpha Phi Alpha. Noah, and my soror, Dr. Tonya Ogletree Fontana. Thank you so much. All right, so we're gonna jump back into questions. I'm gonna try to wrangle you all in, so we can get to all the questions. Oh, I'm sorry, did I forget my name? Okay, Nikki Williams Calhoun, please stand. All right, did I get everybody? All right, we're all good. Just want to appreciate everybody because it takes a lot to put on these types of events in this season. So we are in a non-partisan space in this room with all of the organizations that are here, but some of our elected officials may be of a different affiliate party than we all are. So how can the community hold whatever elected official is there accountable for their campaign promises? So I would ask you to keep it tight, 1.5 minute response. Okay.
Okay, well, real quick, I mean, really just being engaged with your elected officials, calling them, I mean, because you really have access to them. You have access to us, whether it's calling our office to schedule a meeting, emailing, and so holding people accountable as to if you reach out via email and you ask a question. We try our best to get back to people. I know my office does, and so in those instances where you feel that you may be ignored or you're not being answered, you can call them out on that. We see that happening now in the national spotlight with Congresswoman Mace and her constituents holding a town hall. And so that is accountability, doing things like that, because you have to be that bold in order to highlight things, because believe it or not, there are so many people that have no idea what your issues are or what complaints you may or may not have. And so really just engaging, that's what I would encourage people to do, to engage, come up to the State House. I've seen people will come up and go to the office. I mean, it's a public building. You can go and sit in somebody's office. Eventually they're gonna walk in. I mean, people do that all the time. And so we have the power and authority to do that. We don't know that we can do that. But those are tools that you have. You can come up, it's a public building, you can stand in the lobby. You can go to the lobby to that desk and request your representative or senator to come out. They will send somebody into the chamber with a piece of paper and it will say such and such from this organization is outside at the road. And you can go out. And if they don't come out, then you do your homework, and at some point when it's appropriate, you call out all the things that they did not do. And so that's just what I would say, is engage further with them.
Okay. So while South Carolina, while Recollect Waters was saying, we're at the bottom with education, we do have some things that are progressive. We actually have an app. I know you all have a smartphone, so you can go to your app store, SC Legislature. It's a blue app with, looks like an image of the State House on there. In that app, you can follow the Senate and the House. When we have our debates going on, you can watch the live feed from that. If you are interested in a topic, you can search that and see what bills have been filed on that and follow it. You can also follow your representative or any representatives you have an interest in following. And when things that they are a part of moves, it will notify you. So it's a really good way. Also at work, you can just get online and listen. You can listen in audio mode or video. And I also have some sheets here if you want to scan that, like a Google form to put your information in as I'm building my database to be able to send out contact information to folks as well. So there are those ways. And then also, like the senator said, coming up, or if your kids have an interest, sending them, because I can tell you every with somebody there visiting, cousin, they, whoever. So we need to do that too, because our children have, and so it's a good thing to see. And if you think you have an interest in politics, to say, hey, I'd like to come up and shadow you and be able to see the process. So it's public, it's out there.
And Courtney, when you're answering your question, can you talk about the rope that Senator Tedder talked about? What is that? The rope, the velvet rope.
Oh, that one. Is it? Yeah. Okay, now it's working. You mean going back, not being able to go back behind the chamber, but being able to be in the lobby and, okay, yeah. So the only thing I would add is, yes, folks congregate in the lobby. You can go up to the gallery and you can view, and you can also, there's a velvet rope you can go up to, there's a security person who stands there. But you can always, if people are coming in and out, you can say, I'm so-and-so, and my representative is so-and-so, can you see if they'll come out? And a lot of times, I mean, in my experience, folks have come out to talk to me. They might ask you what you want to talk about. I mean, go with something, some reason, certainly. But I think anyone would, right? If you drive up to Columbia, you've got a reason to go. And to Senator Tedder's point, they should come outside to talk to you, to hear from you. But then I would also just encourage you to, even in district, be inviting folks out to speak with representatives. So, at churches and that sort of thing, because what we don't have is like staff that can really help create. If we want to have a town hall, it's on us to create it. So if community members do things like this, it's also just a really great way to engage. And while sometimes, folks might feel like you're asking too much, we need opportunities to engage constituents. And so this kind of thing is exactly what we should be doing.
Awesome, good job. A couple of things that have come up that you've mentioned, and I'd just like to demystify the legislative process. And even for myself, probably 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't know all the things that I know today. So a couple of words that have come up, and I want one of you, whoever wants to answer it. Primaried is a word that we've been hearing a lot, and then earmarked.
So a primary is when you have the opportunity for a party affiliation to elect the person who will represent that party in the general election in November. So in our state, our primaries are usually in June. And we actually have open primaries, which means that if you tend to vote Republican, you can still vote in the Democratic primary, but that means you can't vote in the Republican one for that election cycle, and vice versa. I love that about our state, because for me, strategically, there have been times where okay, that is the presumptive person that this party is going to present. I am not comfortable with what I'm seeing on the other side. So just in case November doesn't go the way I want it to go, let me go vote for the lesser of the two evils and get my point in there. And hoping that, you'd have, if that other party wins, that it's someone you could at least work with or feel you could work with. So that's what's important. I will tell you though, that there is a bill that is now up to do closed primaries. The Freedom Caucus is trying to restrict that. And I don't like it. I think it got tabled last week. And so, but they're trying to do that because they're trying to put people in a box. And I absolutely do not like that. So that's what a primary is. But when I say they will get primary, it's what's happening in the Republican sphere right now. If you don't follow the orange man's mandates, then they find somebody to put up against you. And for a lot of these folks, they are really afraid of that. And so they're just going along to get along because they're afraid of protecting the space that they're in. But I said just this past week with our Democratic caucus, when we were talking about the anti-DEI bill, people have to look at their district demographics and sometimes figure out how they're voting. Sometimes what you see is not always based on the personal feelings. It is sometimes based on what the push they are getting from their constituency. But I made this comment in our Democratic caucus meeting, and I'll say it again. For any Democrat that votes against the anti-DEI bill, they're gonna get it any way it comes, because you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you are a Democrat in this state and you're saying my demographics are such that I need to vote against this, well, guess what? You're gonna have somebody come against you in the primary, and they're gonna bring that up on you, and you're gonna lose the seat early on. If you are in a swing district, you're gonna have a Republican opponent anyway. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, so do it and be damned. I just don't think, and that is exactly what I told him, because there is no way you can say that you represent in this caucus, in my opinion, and not support these fundamental principles about inclusion. So that is the whole primary thing that's going.
Right, and earmark.
Community action projects. No. So earmarks, they did change the name, but essentially what this is a place in the budget where representatives and senators can request funds for special projects back home, i.e. a lot of our organizations that are doing good work in the community to help with funding. So it's a part of the budget where people get to make a request. You don't get everything you request. So please know that if an organization makes a request to a representative or a senator and they put that in, that does not guarantee it. It still has to go through a committee process in the House Ways and Means and the Senate Finance. And so we're just putting up proposals. Now I will say that is changing. This year, the Senate has, and typically, what happens is, say, like there's a nonprofit, and I'll use, for example, like My Sister's House, right? So if people are not familiar with that, it's an organization that helps with victims of domestic violence and shelters. And so I was able to get them $300,000 last year to help go, because they're losing federal funding. So this is where this is like the one thing that the super minority has we can bring the bacon home, as you would say. But it's changing because this year in the Senate, they have done away with, they specifically told us, you cannot get any funding for any nonprofits, period. So, and there are many reasons behind that, but if we look at it, a lot of us have been successful in bringing home on both sides of the aisle. There are Republicans who have put in special projects for nonprofits that engage in diversity and inclusion. These are organizations that are boots on the ground, helping people in our community, providing housing, access, educational opportunities. And so what this is, I think, is another attempt from the orange man to trickle down. So now we're just gonna do away with direct projects to nonprofits. Well, who's that gonna really hurt, okay? It's gonna hurt every organization who's already, they can't get no federal money already. So now this is our attempt at the state level, in my opinion, to do that. And so the process has changed. It's almost like when you figure out how to move forward and how to help people, they move the goalposts. And so that's what's happening now. And so that's the answer to what earmarks were and are. But that's going to be changing drastically this year and the years to come.
All right, so I like popcorn questions. So it's Sunday. So let's talk about your favorite gospel music artist, go. And Dion can carry a tune too. So.
No, well, I mean, honestly, the first name that came up was Tasha Khan.
Oh boy, I like old school gospel. So for me, I think about like James Cleveland, like an old.
Okay. Okay.
So actually, old school, but not as old school as that. I think I have a hard time because I listen so much to Fred Hammond and Marvin Sapp. So I would say they're my favorite. Oh, Lord. Y'all know I don't be on social media now. I was on there the other day and I didn't realize he threw somebody, he closed the doors to the church. Okay, that notwithstanding.
We're gonna go with commission. How about that? Okay. All together, those two commissions. All right. Correct. Oh, so with regard to social and economic equity, let's move to how can local businesses and organizations collaborate with policymakers to drive community progress? We talked about earmarks. What are some other things that they could potentially do?
So I think it's been shown this year for what the House, so with the diversity, equity, and inclusion bill, the reason that it was stopped, I mean, they were going full steam ahead. The train was on the tracks. And when all these people, community organizations, businesses, came up to support the minority party, that showed, oh wait, the majority of people don't like this. So let's pause this because we weren't ready for all this. And so what I'm saying is get engaged, come up. Literally, we need help us help you in the sense where if they in the House being a super minority, 35 out of 124 people. But when you have these organizations, imagine if the entire Divine Nine, I mean, almost, if we just got 30% of the membership of each organization to come up to the State House and rally, it would shut it down. That would show them, oh, wow, people are paying attention. That is what helps us because now those 35 voices have magnified. And so y'all are helping us help you. And that's what we really need because when the issues are the other way around, there's so many factions up there and it's every week they're up there in the lobby. They come into our offices with signs and things, and that's pressure. And so people, it's a real thing. They want to get reelected. So if all of you all came up there, that makes a big difference to not just the emails, but showing up and having a physical presence. And that's what I believe helped stop this, along with the strategy of the House, the Black Caucus, which is a nonpartisan organization, but to have help from the outside because y'all help us. And so if it's just, and then the Senate side, it's 12 of us out of 46. So, I mean, we can be but so loud, but if we got 100 people standing outside, 200, 300 people behind us, that shows a lot. And so, and it gives the members confidence to be even more bold because we know that y'all got our back. And so help us help you. That's my position of getting more involved. We have to have our organization show up in a meaningful way.
And I will echo that, but to show you just how blatant they are, when this came up for testimony, for committee review, the public is always given an opportunity to talk on bills. And so that's another good reason to follow in the app. So if there's something you're interested in, you can sign up for public comment. Typically, that's an hour and a half whole committee meeting. When the DEI, the Anti-Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Bill came up, they started at 1, maybe 2:30. It was 7:30, 7:45 when they were done, because we've got few members from the Black Caucus, four that are on that committee, and we were trying to coordinate some other stuff. There, we're looking on the app. Whoa, they're in there. 5 hours of public testimony, and no one was for it. And everyone there did not look like members of the Black Caucus. And do know, the Black Caucus is the name, but there are members who are not of African American descent. But it's just a caucus that is supporting the issues that do impact minority communities, all minority communities. So you had 5 hours of testimony. No one was for it, but you still moved forward with the bill. They were really expecting us to just say, we don't have the numbers, and okay, let's take the vote. But it is so not gonna go down like that. And so this is something else that I would suggest to you. We have talked about it, but again, we're trying to do all of these things. When we look at it, we have to have our voice there to say we're not interested in what you're doing, but we need to hit them in their most inclusive place, and that's their pocket. And so look at, there is something, the state ethics filings, we all file a statement of economic interest, and they were due to, they're due today by midnight. And it tells you, doesn't tell you how much money they make unless they work for the state, how much money you make through the state, but it tells you where they work or what businesses they own, the sources of income. Let's build a list. If we can put that together and build a list to say, these are the people who voted for this, especially the Freedom Caucus, because we know they're driving it. They don't like the bill in the current version because they said it's too watered down. So I don't know what else they want from us, if they want our firstborn too, because the bill is bad as it stands. But we need to start putting that kind of pressure out there too. Not saying a boycott, but let people know what these folks own, so we don't support them financially either. Because you're not supporting my livelihood, my ability to go to school, my child's ability. You don't help me, I ain't helping you.
Yeah, right.
So I just have two quick things, just as in my brief experience at this level, but certainly my experience on school board. The one that's super quick is data and impact stories. When you think about fighting against something like an anti-DEI bill, you're not changing anyone's mind on the subject. You're not going to appeal to their higher moral self or anything like that, but you can actually demonstrate to them where there's data that says that what you are doing as a result of diversity, equity, and inclusion is positively impacting the economics in the state, the quality of our state, and that without that type of support, those dollars might go away, et cetera. So data and impact stories, if you can tell the story about how this might impact your business or your organization and the work that you're able to do because this thing exists, that actually helps. Because legislators are not experts on DEI necessarily. There are a few of us who engage in the work, but by and large we don't. And so legislators are having to step up and argue for something that we might not actually have deep understanding about. And so there's that. And then the second thing is, and go with me here. But we have to be on the same page about whether we want to fight for these things or against them. Because what I hear a lot, and it tends to be in middle class circles, is this willingness to go along, to get along, and to protect self, because the more that you have personally, then the more you have to lose personally. And the folk in this room are probably not the low-income community that's going to be more acutely impacted. And so we have to decide that, no matter the cost to ourselves, we're going to fight this thing, and we're not going to just decide that, well, don't say that because you still need that contract, or don't, it's in the small choices that we make. Like when you're in a room and someone makes an off-color remark, and your money is made, alongside those people, and you choose to smirk or laugh instead of either speaking up or just going stone faced, which I like to do because it ain't funny. I think you have to decide that in this moment it's too costly to think about the self more than the collective, and that wherever you are hearing or seeing things be done that are going to disadvantage your cousin, the people in your family who haven't made it up the ladder yet, you have to stand for them. And so when you decide where you're going to stand, then you're more likely to be thinking creative and getting curious about how you can contribute to this issue. But the truth is, I don't think we've all decided that this is unacceptable.
Is the Baptist ad or is it?
No, no, so just to add to that, when she talked about being on the same page, the one thing from the national, because I know we're both out of state, but from the national standpoint on what's happening in DC and trickling down, a lot of this is affecting everybody. And so this is a wake-up call, and I believe that this will wake everybody up, because when you talk about the tariffs on foreign cars, who like to drive foreign cars? Okay, so things about to get more expensive for the people that's making more money. When we talk about the diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's shown, at least in South Carolina, these contracts, minority contracts, white women are the most beneficial from that for their husbands' businesses. So it's starting to hurt their pockets. It's not, they think that it's just attacking one group, but it's really hurting everybody. And so, and then when you talk about stopping the income-based payment on student loans, well, the doctors and the dentists who now got to pay $5,000 a month, that hurts, okay? And so these are, so now it's everybody, and everybody's waking up, this can't happen, we can't do this. And so you'll see what I hope is a push as we get to the midterms next year, where people are from Democrat, Republican, black, white, whatever, because the bottom line is when you start to mess with people's pocketbooks, as my mom would say, they wake up. And so I think I'm hoping unfortunately, that's what's happening, but that will align a lot of different people to be on one accord.
I appreciate that. So with that, we are in a very antagonistic season. However, work has to get done. And so sometimes we do have to work across party lines to pass meaningful legislation that benefits the broader community. How do you personally pursue that in your position?
Well, for me, that's just kind of always, that's the mindset that I went into this with. Because while I represent House District 109, I am there for all the people of South Carolina. And so when any legislation comes up, I'm looking at it from the perspective of how does this help us move along? I am currently on the House Judiciary Committee, and so that is, for folks, that's supposed to be a big deal, because that is where most of the bills come through. I'm an attorney by trade, and so having that background and being a magistrate and municipal judge, I guess they thought it was a good idea to put me on at the outset. So we'll see what happens in the next session. So when I see things, I'm looking from that lens about, is this going to be better for folks, or is this going to impact the group or not? But what I've tried to do is look at the bills and who sponsored them, especially those in different committees that I'm a part of. If you're on a committee, let me see what Courtney put up there, so I can show some solidarity in building a bridge with her. Is there something that she's presented that I can add on to? And so I definitely was intentional about that. I spent some time over Christmas. My husband was rehabbing from a rotator cuff surgery, so they had too many places to go. So I went through, all the bills are pre-filed by mid-December, and I just started looking through at those who were on committees with me and looking at what they had done. And if I liked it, I attached myself to it. And because we are a super minority, it wasn't hard to be across the aisle with that. And again, it is a way to connect with people with some things. We have a rep here, Kathy Landing, who has a bill on autism for helping to train our emergency professionals and understanding what that looks like, so that we don't have just untimely deaths because they think that this is somebody being aggressive. And so that's something I'm passionate about, because I have friends who have children with autism. And so just doing little things like that to make our connections, because at the end of the day, we really do have more things in common than we have that divide us.
I'm gonna pass this one. Just because of my experience. And I don't want to talk about school board because it'll be a long story.
Yeah.
So you have to be willing to work across the aisle. If I'll tell people all the time, if you coming up there to be, I'm just a Democrat, I'm just a Republican, you wasting time, because we all represent Republicans and Democrats alike and independents. And there's no such thing as a Republican pothole or a Democratic streetlight. And so when constituents have issues, it affects everybody. And so what Rep. Span-Wilder is right, you find an issue that you can work with somebody on. And oftentimes, especially being in the super minority, in order for our bills to get passed, we can't pass a bill with 12 to 46. That's a failing, that just do the math. You can't pass it with 36 to whatever else is left. But so you have to be willing to work with people, and really that's how you build. It's all about relationship building, because a lot of these issues we think are partisan, and sometimes they're really not. When you go talk to somebody, for example, the Senate just had this big 3.5 week debate on what we call tort reform. It's really about helping to bring insurance premiums down for our local restaurants and bars, but also there's a part of it that is helping to enrich insurance companies. And so there was a lot of misinformation. And so in that, there was a coalition. There are some Republicans that I worked with on this, and we got a group together, and like you would have never thought that we would ever work together on certain things. Ideally, we disagree on a lot, but there are certain issues where it's like, okay, this affects everybody in my area. Let's see how we can work together to come to a compromise, something that can be tasteful. Even with bills that we have, when I was able to pass my bill last year about school expulsions and implementing a system across the state where it's a set system all school districts have to follow to make sure that we're just not expelling kids based on minute things, but there's an actual process. Parents know they get a due process. You know what's involved. You get all the information. The only way for me to pass that was to gain help from the other side, and that's just having those conversations, being willing to go across the aisle and talk to people, get to know them. Hey, what area do you represent? And just have those conversations. But you cannot be, I'm all Democrat or I'm all Republican, because you will be ineffective and you will not accomplish anything.
Hello, all right. It's Sunday afternoon, you're cruising down 26 from Columbia, so we just lost one of the greatest neo-soul artists, my homegirl, Angie Stone. So who's on XM or on your CD, Roof Off, beautiful Sunday afternoon, cruising on Sunday afternoon, who's playing?
I'm actually a music lover, and I can go really all across the board. But if I'm being honest right now, it's GNX by Kendrick Lamar, and it's Bloom by Duran Bernard.
I am not a music expert. My DJ is in the back corner over there. I just know the hooks. But unfortunately, I'm probably taking calls. So and not listening to music. So whatever comes on, I'm usually okay with.
And on a Sunday, even he said it's Sunday afternoon, but after church, it's probably I'm gonna be on 106.3 most likely. So,
All right.
Yeah.
We gonna check. I'll call you, like, it's time to check out. All right, so what programs exist to support young professionals and students in preparing for the future workforce? So we hear a lot about workforce development. So what programs exist to support young professionals and students in preparing for the future workforce?
I'll just briefly jump in. So there are a lot of corporations in our areas that have these workforce programs. A lot of things that we learn when we get in the legislature that we never knew about. A lot of things that our communities don't know about. And so, the top of my head, I know Boeing does a lot of workforce development. They have a lot of programs related to STEM and STEAM for younger children. But there are also programs at the various colleges that you can engage with. And really what we can do too is partner with people. This year for HBCU Day, which is one of my initiatives, I did a pitch competition for HBCU students. And so this was sponsored by the NBA National Basketball Association, and it was held at Benedict, and college students got to compete. It was a 60-second pitch of a business idea, and we had students walk away with $5,000, $10,000 awards for their business idea, 500, 300, 200. And so really just trying to create opportunities we can do that as well. But I will say this, there are a lot that I probably don't even know about the top of my head, but one thing, our office, we have access to those resources. So if you reach out to me and or my assistant in my office, we can provide you with a list of resources for those types of things. So I would encourage you to do that.
So there are, the South Carolina Works, what we used to call the unemployment office. They have a number of programs too, that are for youth, employment. And they also, they manage a program that the lieutenant governor has, and I actually looking at this question, did some research. So the lieutenant governor has an initiative for youth employment as well. And then something that I totally did not realize is if someone is a SNAP recipient, if they are a beneficiary, whether it's, their mother or father getting it, but they are a dependent, there's a program designed to help with that too, because the whole idea is to help be employed, be able to be employed, and to move forward. And so one of the things that the senator was talking about with the Boeing program, there's a collaboration with NASB, the National Society of Black Engineers. But again, when he said that, that hit me, and I was like, dog, I wonder what's going to happen with that. Because I know there is a junior group that is at Royal Missionary Baptist Church. I'm a member of the Links Incorporated, and so we have Dr. Joan Berry, who was here in at Boeing and went and came back and was retired here. And so we put on some STEM initiatives for the children with the BOWS program, Beyond Our Walls. And so all of these things have come from just trying to promote our communities. And so again, when I think about this anti-DEI stuff, you can just see where it's going because it's designed to destroy the pipeline of our future. And so we are definitely going to have to bring our talents back to the community and putting it in just old school one-on-one help, because right now, I don't know where the money is going to go. It might be a 2-year hiatus.
Yeah, I would add just a plug for Trident Tech, because I actually think that the community colleges, the technical colleges are the places where folks need to be. If they are thinking about going directly into the workforce, getting those certifications, building those skills. I also have to shout out a man that I met recently, Julian Williams with Blacksmith & Co. So I meet so many folks, especially in my district, who want to be welders. And one of the high schools the high schools in my district are like Military Magnet, North Charleston High School. And what's really just like a dastardly thing is that across the street from North Charleston High School is the CAS, the Center for Advanced Studies, but it doesn't have like a welding program. It actually doesn't have a lot of programs that students at North Charleston are interested in at all or can access, which is ridiculous. But I met this young man who was in Chippewa, and he was like, I want to weld, but I haven't been able to find a program that is free or that I can afford. And this man, Julian Williams, is like the only Black blacksmith like on this coast left, and he learned under Philip Simmons. And anyway, he offers his services for free to students who want to weld. And so if you know anybody, I have his card here. Folks afterwards are welcome to take a picture of it if you know of anybody. Because the truth is, in terms of workforce development, it can be hard. I like what the senator said about, calling you in that list, but it can be hard to sort of thread a consistent needle, because you sort of have to go to the corporations. You can go to Trident Tech. You sort of have to, look in a number of places depending on what you're interested in. And if you're not situated next to someone in that field, might not really know where to go. The last thing I would say is also, young people who are interested in trades, also a person like Julian is good to talk to, because sometimes the trade programs at Trident, while I shouted them out, the disadvantage is they're preparing folks to go directly into a company to work, when there's a huge opportunity for entrepreneurship if you have these trades. And so getting with someone who's doing it entrepreneurially is really important, just to figure out if you could do this independently and have a career that brings you hundreds of thousands versus, $30 an hour, which is not bad money. But if you want the sort of bar to lift and, the sky to open up for you, then you might want to think about doing it independently. So again, I have his card if anyone knows anybody who wants to take a picture, because this is a free service and it's amazing.
So we had questions that were submitted ahead of time. And I want to go through a couple of those. So one question we talked about, but I just want someone to explain, how do tariffs work? That's been kind of popular on the news circuit. So how do they work in today's time, and what do we expect?
Well, it's trickle down economics. What happens is, in order for the items to come into our country, they have a higher charge on them for the import. And so whomever wants it has got to pay the cost. And it's basic. When it comes in, if I used to pay $100 for it, and now I've paid $250 for it, I need to collect my profit. I need to get my money back. So what am I going to do? I'm going to raise the cost on the consumer, on the end user. And so that is why it's going to be, that's why it's going to be hurtful to us, because things are going to get even pricier. I mean, $8 for a dozen of eggs. I mean, eggs are a good filler. That was the thing. You could get a dozen of eggs and make some deviled eggs or something. You could really do something back in the day. That's a good little filler for something, and now eggs, $8, it's crazy. So it's coming back to us. And so, like I said, we got our cars we like. If you're gonna pay more because the parts are gonna be more expensive, that has to come in. All of these things, it's going to hit us all. And again, when they say white America catches a cold, Black America is going to have the flu. It is going to be a heavy punch. And so it's one of those things, ladies, we like the nice bags and all that stuff. And like I said, don't buy the purse if you don't have at least the equivalent of money to put in it. So, all of those kind of things, I think we're going to have to really scale back on the things that we have come to deserve. And just get back to the real basics.
So this is a good question that came in around Social Security, and I just think it just shows where people are. Will an in-person visit to the Social Security office be required to continue getting Social Security?
At this juncture, I do not believe that there's any issue with the continuation of benefits, but to initiate them, you're going to have to probably go in or set the appointment. Like my mother has retired in the past 2.5 years or so. And so I remember when she set up her phone call, because I'm thinking, okay, do I have to go with you? And she was like, no, you just set up a time and you have a call and they'll walk you through everything. And so she came to my office and I sat with her. They called her and we went through the different options of if you do it now or if you wait a few months and all that. And 15 minutes, I was thinking, oh Lord, I'm gonna have to rearrange my schedule to go with her. But at this point, you're gonna have to rearrange your schedule to go with your mama and your daddy, because I saw something on MSNBC this morning. They said that it's taken 4 hours to get a person on the phone at Social Security. And some of you may have received the text over the past week where it was telling you about downloading your statements. Because, back in the day, you used to just get them in the mail every so often. I don't even know what the trigger was. But now you can create a profile online. Go to ssa.gov. And if it allows you to create the profile, because sometimes if your name is too common or whatever, you may have to do a request, a written request, but go online and download your statement. And when I saw that, I reached out to a friend that works at the office, and I was like, okay, now is this legit or what? And her response to me was, girl, download your stuff so that you have something in writing, because as an employee, she says that her access is starting to be restricted. So, get you a good, safe, a fireproof box, and just start having your stuff, because you're gonna have to prove it, because on the back end, I don't take anything from President Musk that they won't just be stealing.
So I think that's a good way to end our conversation. And I would just say that over the last week, I've been in DC, I've been in other conversations. I've listened to the House debate here in the state. And I think I was in a conversation or listening to Bishop McKenzie on Thursday night. And she was just saying, we don't know what will come, but we know what to do. And so, do you have a stash of cash? Do you have all of your documentation ready? I'm not calling a fire before it's a fire. I'm just saying, be prepared. We don't know. So I think that's something I haven't done. I've been paying Social Security since my first job in high school. So 30-something years later, I need to know what that is. So I think downloading and having your information is important. And I would say for us who are in the sandwich generation, you are taking care of your parents and you may have kids at home, help your parents out, because they watch the news. A lot of us are saying, oh, I'm not gonna watch the news, it's too much. They watch it, that's a part of their routine. And so things are triggering for them. So just work with your parents and your grandparents and to make sure that you're checking in with them more routinely. No, that's not what you need to do. Don't worry about that, or help them through the process of doing the things that they need to do, because they're not although they think they are Facebook savvy and all the things, they might not be as technologically as savvy as we are. So helping, our elders in our community, at our churches, in our sororities, and, next door, just helping those folks out. So I'm going to invite Sharita to come forward to introduce this wonderful woman who's been patient next to me. But I know you're full of wisdom, so.
Mrs. Brenda C. Murphy, a Ridgeway, South Carolina native and Columbia resident, is a lifelong advocate for justice and equality. A graduate of the University of South Carolina, she earned both her Bachelor and Master of Science degrees in nursing. Her professional background spans nursing administration, education, therapy for children and families, and military service. Retiring as a major in the U.S. Army Reserves and associate chief nurse at multiple VA medical centers. Throughout her nursing career, Mrs. Murphy prioritized mentoring future nurses with an emphasis on cultural sensitivity and compassion. She taught at institutions including South Carolina State, USC, MUSC, and University of South Carolina. As a dedicated civil rights leader, President Murphy is the first female president of the NAACP South Carolina State Conference, where she began her advocacy journey over 30 years ago. Her leadership has championed voting rights, housing equity, redistricting reform, and youth engagement. Her numerous accolades include NAACP Juanita Jackson Mitchell Award, the FBI Director's Leadership Award, the Paul Medal Gold Nursing Award, and an induction into Columbia's 50 Most Influential Hall of Fame. She actively serves on boards such as the United Way of South Carolina and the American Red Cross Regional Diversity Committee. A proud member of the Prince Hall Masonic family, she also serves nationally as the Imperial Directress for the NAACP Imperial Court Daughters. She is married to Leo Murphy Jr., and together they have 3 children, 11 grandchildren, 3 great-grandchildren, and a beloved granddog. She worships at Greenview First Baptist Church and lives by her favorite scripture, Philippians 4:13. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. We welcome you, President Murphy.
stand because I've been sitting. I drove down from Columbia. Make sure. Do y'all mind my stand?
No.
Nice to see you all. I just was with them last week. I came straight from church here. Okay. I'm sorry. This morning, I started to travel down the road for this event. We count on us a great deal in this state. And I have to pray every morning. I pray at night. And I'm going to admit, I cried too, because of what's going on in our state. And looking at our young people, the future leaders that are going to be dealing with what happens today in terms of the changes in some of these laws that are being discussed. I will say they're bills now. Hopefully they don't come. I need to say, at least recognize the president here from the Bruce Creek area. She's a hard worker. She's a hard worker. I want to say too to the Divine Nine, thank you for working collaboratively with the NAACP. We've got to unite. We've all got to work together. I tell people I'm a part of the number 10, which y'all don't recognize. I'm nursing sorority. I am a check. But that's okay. One day, maybe I'll. So I have to, we have to laugh sometimes because of everything that we're facing. We must. Now, I know we talked a little, we talked a lot. You all talked a lot, okay? And we talk about what's going on in our local communities. But you know what? We got to think more broadly because everything that you do and say affects us all. So that's one thing I would like to see occur in terms of the broadness. So I'm not just representing Charleston County, but I'm representing South Carolina and the needs of South Carolinians. Talking about Sharina and the work that she's done, and myself, y'all know we're volunteers. We don't get a dollar. NAACP members do not get anything for the work that they do. It's all volunteer hours. But I have to commend her for the work that she did here. She's from Goose Creek, but she impacted even the Charleston area, the entire community in terms of making sure calls were made in the community. And when I say that, she did it in collaboration with the Divine Nine. I have to say, you've been good. You have been good to us as the NAACP. There needs to be more. We want all of you to volunteer because of the work that we need to do in our communities. Someone said earlier, you the folks that are here are the ones that are engaged in their communities, but we need to be even more engaged. Please go out in your communities and explain to individuals what is actually occurring. I was at a meeting in Lee County yesterday, and it's just not Lee County, it's all counties. The majority, most that I can think of. People, the average person doesn't understand how the anti-DEI bill impacts on them. They don't know. We have to think broadly. It's going to impact on everything in our lives. You know, we talked about the cost of eggs, but it's not just eggs, it's the meats, it's the vegetables, it's everything. The clothing, medical care, access to care. And when we talk about Medicaid and the changes in Medicaid, that has a ripple effect. Your hospitals, funding decreases there. So what is it going to do? We have less opportunities to see our doctors. Those that, and the cost of our care is going to go up, because if you have insurance, it's going to be us. It's going to really bear the cost of care still being delivered in our communities. We all need to be sensitive about the impact of Medicaid. You know, we were advocating for Medicaid expansion, but we had to turn around just within the last couple of weeks. And, you know, our focus is on maintaining Medicaid coverage now. We got to fight to maintain the coverage in order for children, those that are disabled, to receive their care. And have you all really thought about Medicaid, and if it drops, those people that are in nursing homes primarily are funded by Medicaid, primarily are. Medicare doesn't get you in a nursing home, y'all know that. It does not, and you know, I learned a lot personally when my mom became ill and really needed, because, you know, we have to work. And when I found out, Medicare was only going to get her 15 days in a nursing home facility, and that was just basically for rehab. I thank God every day, it was 7 of us, so we took turns taking care of my mom at home. But not everybody is able to do that. So please keep that in mind. I'm going to say I was a little bit, I am disappointed in how quickly South Carolina is implementing much of what we heard in Project 2021. That's right, 2025. Jumped on the bandwagon. Started doing some of it before we heard a lot from our leadership. We are nonpartisan, okay? So I'll just say leadership. But things are moving quickly. And I can talk about my governor. To see how quickly he started talking about Medicaid and how he was going to make people work to receive it. Now, some of us are staying at home to take care of our family members because we can't get them in the nursing home, right? So how are we going to work? And then we have the disabled that get Medicare, Medicaid. And then many of our children because of the income, you know, now I'm hearing something about this tax that our state is considering in terms of decreasing taxes. But did you hear the bottom part of that? Tax everybody 4%, the richest and the poorest. We need to know what is going on. We need to prepare our communities and let them know exactly what is occurring. I made a couple of notes as they were speaking. I want to commend, you did speak up, thank you, I appreciate that. I haven't been to the Senate to hear what they're going to do, but I'm hoping it doesn't get as far as the Senate. But, with the DEI, we need to know what our representatives are doing, how they're voting, what it is that they're saying. And we need to tell them, make it known that we want them to voice their discontent with this bill. I will say that Representative McDaniel, I want to commend her for the job that she's doing, because she is a voice for the people and she's speaking up. Representative Johnson as well, and Representative King. And when they speak for South Carolina, not just for an area. So, and thank you for doing the same. I'm gonna visit the Senate too, okay? I will say this, we lost some people. Our numbers are not as great as they should be, but it took one man to make things happen. And all of us are here today. If Martin could do it, then we sure should be able to impact on our communities. And what happened? Dr. King did it. We shouldn't give up, and we should express ourselves. We cannot be silent. This was interesting too. The comment about visiting the State House. You need to be prepared, because I think they do this intentionally. They have all these people that are in the balcony. So we were there, the NAACP last Tuesday, and we went up, we tried to get up in the balcony. Two of us were able to get in the balcony because they have all of these different groups that come in. And so I had to tell some of my members, hold tight, because they're gonna do all these introductions, and they do the introductions and then the seats will clear. But I think they do that intentionally because people will get tired and they will go home. And then that's when the business started. After everybody has left pretty much, the balcony is almost empty. And they beat up on our representatives. But the voices were heard. I mean, last week, our representatives did, I guess that was, what do we call it? Not debating, but it's debating, okay. What's that other word when you know it's not where they need to be? Filibustering. That's what it was, because the numbers weren't where they needed to be, and they did a good job of that vote not happening last week. And we do plan to come back. We have another strategy though. We're gonna take on dressing in black like y'all plan. And we are also, it's gonna be black all the way. Not, as I saw some people with different colors under that black. So if you're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right. We're gonna do it right. Now, one thing I need to know, because you said it would be Tuesday or Wednesday, and you're not quite sure. But we're hearing, because Tuesday we go in and start at noon.
Mm-hmm.
And so Wednesday we start at 10 a.m. So I guess the thought is it's going to be a long day.
Mm-hmm.
If it starts Wednesday, because I know I filed an amendment, my amendment is number 12. So I don't know if there are others behind it, but we intentionally filed amendments to. Okay, well, we can talk about the best day for us to show up. And not only us, we are hoping that the Divine Nine will be with us. And President Haynes, you gotta get the group together, okay? But regardless, we're going to be there. There is, just to let you know, that we are doing some work. Nationally, they are fighting diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's the national NAACP, okay?
Also, we are here in the state of South Carolina, we filed last week against the decisions to stop teaching the advanced African American studies course in the high school. You know, you may not hear about litigation, but you know you can't tell everybody what you're doing, because if you tell them ahead of the time, they'll do what they can to get ahead of it. But I encourage you, if you're not a member of the NAACP, to please consider joining. And that way you can know what it is we're doing. And if we need to hear from you, if there's something else we need to do. But know that nationally, a lot is going on. There is litigation about the disbanding of the education department, division, and things that are impacted on us. The national, I just want to assure you, if it's national, it is the national office that is dealing with it, okay? One thing we've noticed, and I'm very concerned about it, is we seem to be losing our Black superintendents. We are concerned about that and beginning to look at that because we see trends. We can see trends. So we are looking at that with the national office in terms of seeing is if there's something we will be able to do. Now, I've talked a lot. I cried a lot. I mean, when I watch the news, I try not to watch it too much because it really, really breaks my heart to see the changes that have taken place that have changed education over the years. And I'm going to say this. I think a lot happened over the years, and we didn't pay attention to it. And that's why we are where we are today, because we kind of sat back and we said, oh, that didn't bother me, so I'm not going to say anything. But we are really in trouble now. We are really in trouble now. And last thing I'm going to tell you that was very interesting. I have a grandson that goes to a certain school, not here in South Carolina, but you know, we've been having trouble with these schools in South Carolina for a while. He just to kind of let you know what we are dealing with here. He applied to medical school at MUSC, never got the word back. Well, even the University of South Carolina graduated, even though he was in the top 10 of his class. He had to tolerate some little racist comments behind that in terms of why he was in the top 10. But anyway, you just need to be aware of what South Carolina really is like. My grandson went to Columbia University, majored in biomedical engineering. Currently is at UPenn, working on his PhD, MD. Now, why am I telling you that? But he couldn't go to school here to do what he wanted to do here. But my point is this is something else. I was saying I was worried because he'll get his PhD next year and then he'll continue. You know, they have to go a couple of years of medical school, PhD, and then back to medical school. I was saying, because, I mean, we haven't paid a penny. We have not paid a penny for him to go to Columbia or to UP. I was a little bit concerned when I heard about the changes coming, but I think some things are happening selectively. Now, y'all know Pennsylvania, right? And so somebody told me, oh, you don't have to worry. Nothing's gonna have to happen at UPN. And y'all know what? Anybody? I didn't know it. I went to school at UPN. Donald Trump, okay? So things are happening selectively, and we need to be aware of what is happening. And we need to be aware of our state and their movement so quickly and making the changes even before they get finalized at the national level. Talk to your representatives, talk to your governor, because you need to talk to him too. Your senators, and I'll tell this. I met with him a few months back, and we were talking about nurses and the need for nurses now. I bet he'll never tell the story that I shared with him, what they did with nurses years ago in order to get the numbers up. I talked about the scholarships and the need for them to have those scholarships again in order for people to have better access to care. I think I've said enough, but did anybody have any questions of me? All I do, I just say, pray for my traveling mercy. I'm all over this state. I love my Eastern Stars. That's one of my favorite ones back there. Sister Edwards, past grand, or the matron Edwards. I just am concerned about what is happening in our state. And we have to unite to make our state a better state for all people, all people. So are there any questions? Yes.
I got it. In South Carolina as the first in the city from the union back in the days. And also that when you wake up in the morning and you find out that your neighborhood has been rezoned to industrial or whatever, our well, the county and city councilmen are doing these things. If you don't attend the city and county council meetings, we are left behind. I'm living in a neighborhood where I have industry there. It was city from the beginning, and that was back in 1960s, 50s, and 50s. And now it's 2025, and they have changed it to industrials. I've had a cement plant back there. I've had a chemical plant back there. I've had a garbage dump back there. I've gone to every city council meeting and we signed petitions and nothing has been done. And I keep going to the meetings, bringing up the same subjects and getting nowhere.
I'm going to say who's going with you.
Nobody.
Whenever, that's right. Whenever there's an issue of concern for the community, you gotta take people with you. You must. You must. But you gotta talk about some of the implications of those businesses being in your community. Health. Because the pollution that it caused. But you've got to go. You've got to get your, I think it's all about taking the time to help them understand what will occur if they don't get involved. There's one I'll say county right now is complaining because they say their cancer rates are high. But they already got the company in their community now. And so we should have been fighting that from the beginning.
But nobody knew anything about the zoning. What you see is a cardboard stuck in the grass, and it's a Z there,
Yeah.
and it's and I didn't know that was zoning. And then they changed it on the paper is fair, when you go back, the meeting has already been scheduled and everything has been planned.
I'm going to say to NAACP, Divine Nine, interested community members, it is our responsibility to work in our communities to help individuals know what is going on. Unless we do that, we will continue to fail. We've got to make the effort. And we are at a point we have to now. We don't have any choice. I know I don't want my grandkids and great grandkids going back to conditions of the 50s and the 60s. Okay? It's going to take an effort. Okay. No other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, President Murphy.
Good afternoon, everyone. If you learned something on this afternoon, please clap your hands. If you are going to engage in your community more in some way, please clap your hands. My name is Dr. Raven Neal. I am the Social Action Committee Chair of the Lampton Zeta Chapter Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Again, thank all of you for attending this afternoon. A couple key takeaways that I wrote down was impact. So impact on jobs, scholarships, impact on our local school budgets. We need to pre-plan, right? We need to pre-plan for all these things because we know that monies are not there as they once were. Uncertainty in benefits such as Social Security, Medicare, veteran benefits. That's close to me because I am an employee of the VA. New impact daily, and I can tell you as a federal employee, there is new things happening daily, emails and everything else. Be engaged with your elected officials. Reach out, be visible. Sign up for that app, SC Legislature. So if you have not done so, please pull out your phone and get that app so you can stay in the know. Be willing to host something like we've done today, so that other residents can come out and learn from our elected officials here. Do your research. Be wise on where you spend your money. Tell your story in relation to the changes. They need to hear the impact from us to help us, help them help us. Get on the same page. Be willing to walk across the aisle, shake a hand, discuss things that might be different on either side. Doesn't matter. We're here to work together. There are many resources still available in the community for our young people that was mentioned, workforce programs for our local businesses and corporations, SC Works, who I've worked with well, we work with veterans, Trident Tech, and bring your talents to the community. So that means if you have a skill and asset, something that you are willing to share in the communities, please be willing to do so. And my fraternity brother, Mr. Calhoun, is going to come up and he's also going to share a couple of points with us.
Sometimes they say, you say the best for last, but in this particular case, she was definitely the best, and I appreciate you. You know, when you take the glasses off, you know that's when you get old, so I can see. Way that I want to explain what I learned today. I think each one of you to take the time out. The period of time where legislators are not even going to town hall, or not going to speak, you know, Senate representatives versus Senate themselves. I commend you, I appreciate you, and I thank you for all that you have done up to this point. I know there's so much more that you need to do, and as a member of the city fraternity, you're here to help and serve, and we're willing to serve. Best time to plant a tree is when? 20 years ago, 30 years ago for some people, 20 years ago. When's the next best time to plant a tree? Today, right now. What you will see today was seeds of change. What are you going to do with these seeds? The very first thing, so this is kind of an analogy for what I've learned. First, you got to plant with intention. What I learned is that we got to sit here, take the time to fight for the things that are happening in our community. Some people are fighting to be fighting, but they don't know why they're fighting. They're fighting for their, fighting for aid. Fighting for the workforce. One of the things that caught me off guard is that Boeing, Volvo, these are all, some of these are headquartered, they're headquartered here, but their main office is overseas in Germany. These are going to become things that affect us. So we got to look at training our youth on whether it's Boeing, whether it's, I love the pitch, thing that you working with the NBA, work, try and care, as first, we need to take care of that and develop that. Second, to cultivate the right environment. That means accountability. That's something that a lot of people are not being held accountable for their actions, and we need to shed a little bit of light to that. We also need to encourage entrepreneurship, allow people to have that level of growth. The next step is having a consistent effort. Visit the state office. Visit the state office. If you didn't get anything else from this, take the time to take the trip. Also, engage your officials. One, go up here so I understand how the process is done, but secondly, once you're there, engage. You gotta spread light, which means, no, it's Sunday, but I'm just paraphrasing what somebody else said. Do it and be damned. Just do it and be damned. Go ahead and let people know that that slide comment, that statement, is not going to fly in your presence. Almost done now, almost done. When it comes to also shedding light, you need to prepare your community. As we are learning, we need to take the time to teach others. Make sure that they're aware. We also got to show unity. When we're talking about prune distractions, we got to remove people who are disadvantaged to us. Who is, how can I put it? They're not playing on the same piece of music. Imagine if you're playing in a band, one individual just on a different page. He's playing when he should be playing. He might be a step behind or might be a step ahead. We all got to get on the same page so that we can make the music sound. We need to adapt and expand. One of the things that people don't understand is that Project 2025 is a living document. I mean that we're making changes, they're making changes. If we're making adjustments, they're making adjustments. Some of us are fighting the fight that has already been modified and changed. So we've got to constantly make that change. Last but not least, and I'm about to wrap this up, as I was going through my steps, these are the steps where you take a seed to a tree. But when they say stand firm, that means you got to stand together. So what I'm also looking at it is we have some firm trees in our lives. We got senior citizens or older people. Some of us are going to become, God willing, senior citizens. We need to help with the Social Security. We need to make them understand tariffs. We need to make sure we have a little cash, get our documents together. But that's what all I learned. Here's a Calhoun trinket that I'm gonna hand out to y'all. What happened on Friday? I know, and I didn't know until today. On Friday, on Friday, I think afternoon, Linda McMahon went ahead and canceled any COVID-related funds across the board. They made Friday the last day. So if you were scheduled to get something in January of 2026, that will no longer be a habit. Your last day was Friday. So how does that affect you? Well, how do we talk about that? Well, just like we was talking about teachers. That's going to affect teacher training. It's going to affect teachers' education. It's going to affect the development of different school projects. It's going to affect construction. These are things that are happening right now that's going to affect the economy. And for those who do not understand why I'm saying this right now, South Carolina has been off. So we left money on the table that we thought we'd have an opportunity to spend probably in this summer. That's not going to happen. How did that affect you? How many of us seen this city, this state, grow beyond leaps and bounds? Where's the funding for that? Some of it's not going to be. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Tammy Williams, and I am the Vice President of the Somerville branch of the NAACP. I'm standing in for our current president, Dexter Mack, due to a scheduling opportunity there. But first, I'd like to thank the panel, and I've been truly enlightened by the information you've spoken to be better, so I can't know your names, but about you. And then I'd like to thank everyone who's here in attendance this afternoon. If I could share just a little bit about our branch in Somerville. We actually went through the process of restructuring and breathing new life into the organization. Certainly we have and we mirror the national agenda of being a resource to the local community. We are nonpartisan, but we are focused on 3 specific initiatives. And one would be the overall health of our community, particularly mental health. The second interest that we have is also in education. And the third issue that we are concerned with, of course, would be politically, how can we help the community to be educated, also encouraging or increasing, I should say, those who are actually registered to vote. I will share a little bit of information. We went out to canvass. Again, this was nonpartisan, but we went into a local community to canvass as we went door to door. We were very strategic on the time we went. We went door to door. What just kept coming back to us was nailing our doing is that the individuals who answered the door, a lot of them didn't even know if the other household members were even registered to vote. And most women answered the door were either not registered to vote themselves or had not been active in any election, whether it's local or state or federal. So that really was very telling to us, and that speaks to what the panel was mentioning today, is where there is an onus, where you feel as if you are part of the overall process of legislation and what these laws will actually mean to you. Sometimes we don't realize the importance of who's actually representing us until the lights get turned off. And then we say, well, who didn't pay the bill? Or we say, who turned the light on? But then by that time, the horse is out the barn and his tail's flapping and he's running down the lane. So I would just say that for us, what we are recognizing is, yes, it's about educating, but if you cannot reach your entire community, because it does take a system in order to be able to do that, start in your own home. Start with your family members, start with your coworkers, start with your friends, your bowling leagues, your girls group, your golfing association. Start there and start to have those conversations and maybe just stir up, well, hey, I might need to watch the news tonight. And even if we know that the information is going, that we're receiving may be colored in one direction or another, encourage them to continue to dig a little bit more and find out, well, why is this, or why should this be important to me and to my family? So I just wanted to say that, to let you guys know about what we're doing. WDO meeting, it's center, so it's open to anyone. If you are not current members, we welcome you to come and join us. One caveat with us is that we are moving away from being reactionary and more proactive. So yes, we're here. If you need us to be that resource and put you with attorneys or put you with certain government officials to try to get those questions answered for you, but bring us, what you're seeing is occurring, or something is a concern for you now, or maybe you were in another meeting and this is something that, hey, you need for us to get that information out to the community or to assist you in getting information out to the community. Come to us, be a part of it. And so again, like I said, we were being very proactive. And I thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Follow my elder's lead and come stand up. I can't wait to talk more with you, Mr. Murphy, because we have a lot in common. My mother is a retired nurse, and I was just telling her she's a member of Chi Phi. My mother and my aunt were both hospital workers at the old Columbia Hospital. You know anything about Columbia Hospital? That's the segregated hospital. So I'm going to sit at your feet for a little while, and we're gonna connect the dots. I just want to say in my reflections, I just really appreciate the effort of the organizations that put this together at this time. I know there is a lot going on, and that all of the D9 are going through many conversations about what we are and are not going to do. But I do believe that I reminded the group a few weeks ago, we've been meeting a lot. Different groups have been meeting a lot, but the organizations or the individuals who created a lot of these organizations were in their teens, high teens, or 20s. They were college students. And so we have to remember that as we are adults and we have assets and things that we want to protect, and individuals in our family and our community that we have to now take care of. But at the end of the day, when we go back to the 1900s, the early 1900s, those were college students who had the courage to do something that they couldn't even see till today. They just knew it was the right thing to do at that time. So let's continue that work. So I'm a good PK 2 times, so I like things in 3s, right? Okay, so what's the charge for today? Share the information with someone today, one thing. So my brother KJ Kearney, who's what'd you say, did you say Oh, okay. No, he's an influencer, so you need to get to know KJ. Black Food Fridays, that's your shout out for today. But he's an influencer, and he uses social media to influence what we eat and how we eat and what are the new restaurants and who are the new hot things going on. So you're gonna become an influencer today on social. Today on social. One thing on social that you learned at this town hall. All right, tell somebody. Download the legislative app. We've heard that a couple of times. I learned about another app last week in DC for the national issues. It's called 5 Calls. 5 Calls. And it's blue and it's 5 stars, but 5, the number 5 calls. And it is tracking all of the federal legislation. And you can put in where you're located, and it will pull up all the bills that you know are cognizant to you or aligned to you, and then you can go button and it will automatically call your congressman or senator's office depending on what the bill is. Automatically, 5 calls. Download that today. Know that The DEI bill that they talked about today is not called the DEI bill, okay? It is H, write this down, H dot 3927. So H 3927, and it is called the Ending Illegal Discrimination and Restoring Merit-Based Opportunity Act. House Bill 3927. It is called Ending Illegal Discrimination and Restoring Merit-Based Opportunity Act. There's a lot of gaslighting going on, y'all. So sometimes people will say, well, y'all don't know what you're talking about. I don't know about no DEI bill. We don't have no bill called DEI. You're like, no. House Bill, what? Okay, there we go. All right. The final thing I would say is that involve our youth. So a point of